Welcome back, everybody. Coast to Coast Sports. Last week, you tuned in for the Halloween special tier list, and I said, well, I can do better than this. So today, it's time for the Election Day tier list. This is going to be fun. We
Levi, I
start,
thought your Halloween tier list was pretty good too. So,
I thought it was too. I'm
let's
starting
see
to
if you
get
can
more
one up it
creative.
here.
Tier 12, the independent parties. These guys are their chances of making the playoffs are about as high as the independent parties' chances of winning anything. The Panthers, the Patriots, these teams are terrible. I don't think we really need to talk about them.
Yeah, they're pretty bad. I will say the Patriots rather have shown more life than the Panthers. They've been in a couple teams. The Jets looks like a better
It's
win
true.
now that the Jets did beat the Texans. But yeah, I agree. These two teams not good at football.
Yeah. Next tier, write-in candidates. What do I mean by write-in candidates? Well, we don't know
Wow.
who's playing quarterback for these teams. The Titans, you can just write in. Is it going to be Will Levis? Is it going to be Mason Rudolph? I don't know. Any given Sunday, right? Same thing for the
Mhm.
Raiders. It might be Gardner Minshew. It might be Desmond Ritter. It might be Aiden O'Connell. We don't know. I don't think their coaches know. I don't think their players know. And I don't think the quarterbacks know. I don't think anybody knows. But no matter who it is, the write-in candidates never win, and neither do these teams.
Yeah, Levi, I have a problem with this tier, and it's not who you have in the tier. It's that you have the write-in candidates above the independent parties, which I guess tells you a little bit about where we are at our political state in this country right now. But, looking at these two teams, I agree. I think, benching Will Levis was probably a good move. I think the Raiders, they're lost. I'm a big Gardner Minshew fan. I know you are too, Levi, over there at Washington State. So sucks that he hasn't been able to really put together a full season so far.
Well, Minshew just has a turnover problem. I feel bad for the guy, but he has to stop throwing picks. All right, tier 10, bitter clingers. This is what Obama called the Republicans who were clinging to the Bible and refusing to accept gay marriage. What do I mean by this though in terms of the NFL? Bitter
Was
clingers.
about to say, let's go back on path here.
These two teams are bitter clinging to their terrible quarterbacks. Daniel Jones and Derek Carr have been awful this year, and they were awful last year. Why are they still trying to think that Derek Carr and Daniel Jones can win in this NFL? They can't. I'm sorry. I've seen it. They can't win. They're just bad.
Yeah, I saw a kind of funny meme, I guess you could say, on my Instagram today that says Derek Carr has gotten Dennis Allen fired now on two different
Twice.
teams.
Yeah, twice.
That's kind of true. It's funny. Um, yeah,
He's
I
no
think
good.
it's weird, Levi, because Derek Carr was balling those first 2 weeks. Since then, he's been the worst quarterback in the NFL. I don't understand how it's been so contrasting between those first 2 weeks and every other week. I remember those first couple weeks, everyone was like, obviously sarcastic, but Derek Carr MVP season. And now it's like, why is this guy still on an NFL roster? So crazy how quickly it's turned around over there in New Orleans. And the Giants, they'll give some teams some scares. You see that with the Seahawks, how we lost to them a few weeks ago. I don't know if the Giants are as bad as where you have them right now, Levi. I don't know. I would
Really?
probably have them higher. I mean, look, they lost to the Commanders by 5. That's a good
They
loss in
did.
my eyes.
They did.
I think the Giants deserve to be above a few teams you have here.
Okay, well we'll see. I mean, they play the Panthers next week, so if they beat the Panthers, whoever wins that game, I have to bump up a little bit. All right, tier 9, Clinton 2016 level disappointment. All of these teams came into this season thinking this is our year. We're going to make the playoffs. We're going to make a run. And all of these teams, you can't see 22 through 26, all of these teams are going to miss the playoffs. It's disappointment like Hillary Clinton in 2016. The
Okay, I like the
Jaguars,
analogy.
the Jaguars came into the season thinking Trevor Lawrence going to get better. We're going to keep improving. And all of a sudden, they can't win a football game. They're 2-7. The
Yeah.
Dolphins, Tua gets hurt again. This was the year, right? They were favored to win the division last year. They were favored to slightly, they were very, very small underdogs this year, but they were, most people thought this was a playoff team. And what happened? Tua gets hurt. They can't win a game. They lost to the Cardinals, right? The Browns. The Browns are thinking, man, if Joe Flacco can get us to the playoffs, then anyone can get us to the playoffs, right? Wrong. No matter how
Mhm.
good Myles Garrett is, that defense, the offense has gone completely flat. They can't win a football game. The Jets,
Well, they could win a football
they
game
did beat
last
the Ravens, to be
week.
fair.
Yeah.
The Jets, the Jets thought this is our year. Aaron Rodgers, he's going to get us to the big game. And what happened? The Jets completely fell apart. And yeah, they beat the Texans. That's why they're on this tier and not in the bitter clinging tier, because I
Yeah.
thought about putting them down below, but I was like, they beat the Texans. I'll put them up. And finally, the Cowboys. The Cowboys is just
Wow.
disappointment. They said in the preseason, what did Jerry Jones say? He said, we are all in. And is this really what all in looks like? 3-5? That's not all in to me.
It's not. I mean, the Cowboys aren't the team I have a problem with in this tier. Levi, I love your creativity, but it seems like you're being, I do not think even you think that the Jets deserve to be here. They just beat the Texans, who you have as a top five football team.
Well, the Texans were missing Stephon Diggs, Garrett Wilson, or excuse me, not Garrett, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, and playing on a short week. So,
I understand. I
do you
understand. We'll
think so?
see.
Well, the
I
Jets,
think the
the Jets
Browns.
play the Cardinals next week. Do you think the Jets can beat the Cardinals?
I do. I think they'll. I think they'll
You
beat the
do.
Cardinals. I
Oh,
do.
see, I don't.
Well, I think the Jets are now all of a sudden there's a
There's some
little
life.
bit of life,
Okay.
a little bit, and I think the Jets are a more talented roster. The other two teams I want to touch on, Jaguars suck. I don't know what's happened to them. The Dolphins, they are like insurmountably better with Tua Tagovailoa. Like it's like a crazy difference
Yeah, it
offensively,
is, isn't it?
especially. I think like if anything obviously to his career is this close to being over, not because of his play on the field, but because of his head injury. But I think that this has been one of the biggest stock rising years for Tua,
Oh,
despite how
yeah.
bad the Dolphins have been, because people realize Tua is not just a quarterback with a lot of good talent around him. He is a quarterback with a lot of good talent around him, but he also is a talented quarterback. Like, this is not a Brock Purdy situation, Levi. He matters to the Dolphins, and you've seen it this year. They've looked a lot better these last few weeks. And then the Browns to the right. I understand why you have them here. I do. They looked ugly. That was an ugly loss against the Chargers, but beating a Ravens team that, in my eyes, I don't know where you have them, are a top three football team.
Yeah.
That's impressive. So I don't know if I would drop them this low at this point.
Well, it's tough. I mean, they're 2-7, and I have them as the number 24 team in the league. So I
Yeah,
feel like that's for a 2-7 team to say, I think you're better than 7 teams in the league, despite being tied for the Browns are literally tied for the worst record in football.
yeah. I guess I don't disagree with it. I just think that was a really impressive win
It
versus
was,
the
it was,
Ravens.
and they could, and if they keep winning,
And
all
hey,
none
it's
of
the
these teams can't
NFL.
move up.
The
It's the NFL,
NFL,
any given Sunday.
any team can beat any team on any given day. So
Exactly. All right, tier 8. Need a bump in the polls. These teams, they feel like they're just kind of riding the midline, and you can get away with riding the midline for a while, but when the rubber meets the road, you need to get that bump in the polls to push you over the finish line. And I'm not sure if these teams are going to get it. The Seahawks, they started off strong, got a nice little rise. Now they're
yeah,
kind of floundering a bit. 21, they've been hovering around number 20 for a while for me, but they still haven't broken into the top 20. If they beat the Rams, they would have been there, but they, lost in overtime. Tough way to lose. Interested to hear your take on that game. The Niners, I still don't believe in the Niners. I know this. I'm the only person in the world who thinks the 4-4 Niners aren't a good team. I think they've been pretty average this year. I still don't trust Brock Purdy.
Levi, I have to answer this call.
A call. Okay, let
Yeah,
me
we
pause the
can we can
video.
slice it
Let
together.
me
It's the
pause it.
guy for the Wall Wall Suites.
All right. Well, congratulations to Drew. Took a call, got a summer gig. Let's keep going.
All
The
right.
Bears. They need a bump in the polls. 4-4, average team. They started off hot. I maybe overrated them a little too much. I had them at number 10 at one point. They're now down to 19. The Rams. They did beat the Seahawks. Nice little bump there, but I still am not sold
That's
on
disrespect.
them
That's
at four and
disrespect.
four. And last but not least, Tampa Bay, man, I really want Tampa Bay to be good. And I feel bad for them because you look at their losses. They took Atlanta to overtime. They took the Chiefs to overtime. They played, a close loss to another close loss to the Falcons and the Ravens. Obviously, so none of their losses are terrible, but yet they're 4-5. I just feel, and the Niners play the Bucks next week. So one of these teams is going to lose again next week. I just feel like out of these teams, none of them scream good team. They all just scream mediocre, and I feel like they all need to show me something more.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's the NFC West minus Arizona tier list, add in add in the
Yeah,
Bears and the Buccaneers. Yeah, we have not seen the Cardinals yet, have we?
we've not.
That is
The
that's
Cardinals,
crazy.
the Cardinals have made a pretty significant leap.
You think they're the best team in the West?
I do. Well,
Wow.
they blew out the Rams, and the Rams beat the Seahawks and the Niners, and the Cardinals also beat the Niners. So from that
I
logic, I feel
I
like I
mean,
have to put them ahead.
okay. Yeah,
They
you can
beat
go
the Rams.
around the merry. You can go
Didn't
around and
they?
around the
Didn't they
merry-go-round
beat
as
the
much as you
Rams?
want. I mean,
Didn't
the
they beat the
Seahawks beat the
Rams
Falcons
31
and the
to
Falcons
10?
beat the Buccaneers and the Buccaneers, like, come
Well,
on.
sure, but I'm saying head to head in the division, the Rams lost 31 to 10 to the
I
Cardinals.
understand. Listen, Levi, I get it.
We'll see. I don't know if I believe in the Cardinals, but I mean, they're not that much higher. I think they're in the next tier. So
Yeah,
keep going.
I'll quickly say my piece about the Seahawks. Levi, this is the first week I agree with you. I think the Seahawks, they're a good team, but they are a mediocre good team. And
Yeah.
that there's a lot of mediocre good teams in the NFL. I mean, to be quite frank, all five of these teams are good teams in my eyes.
And all five of them can make the playoffs, but I don't know if any
Yes,
of them
yes.
will.
The problem is tier 8 and on, it seems like to me is 21 teams that you can look at the roster and you can kind of convince yourself that they could potentially not even just make it to the playoffs. They can make a run in the playoffs if everything goes correctly. I mean, the Bears, they should have beaten the Commanders. I mean, they should have. That game was 99% Bears way. The Rams, I mean, they just beat the Hawks. The Rams is the one I would disagree with, but these other four teams, I agree with you. First week, I agree with you in the 49ers too, Levi.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, they beat the Cowboys. Who cares? And then what? They had a bye week last week, so
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. I think the Rams are good though. I do. I think they're probably a borderline, top 15, top 10, maybe even team. We'll see. I think
Okay.
you're kind of underrating the Rams because the start of the year where they had a lot of injuries, and I don't think you can kind of judge a team right now based off a few weeks ago without Cup and without all those guys. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, like I said, next week, Niners Bucks, that'll be a big game. And whoever wins that game definitely moves up a
Yeah.
tier. Tier 7, the 1992 presidential election. Let me explain. So these are the three teams that I think are fighting for the last wild card spot in the AFC. So because I'm thinking the Steelers are going to be a wild card team, the Chargers are going to be a wild card team. There's three teams left.
Levi, could I ask a
1992.
question?
Yes.
So can you give me a slight context on
Yeah, no,
1992 presidential
I'm about
election?
to. I'm about to.
Okay,
So
okay.
1992, it was a rare year when we had three candidates instead of two. So we had the newcomer who ultimately won it, Bill Clinton. That's like Bo Nix and the Broncos. He's a newcomer. He's new to the NFL. Do we think he's
They're
going to
hot.
win? I don't know, but they are hot. Then we've got the guy who was the incumbent. That's the Bengals, right? The Bengals have been there. They've done that. That's George W. Bush, who lost that election to Bill Clinton, right? The Bengals have been there, done that, but this year they're 4-5. They're showing signs of weakness. They did just get a really good win, but it was against the Raiders, so I don't know how good that is. And then there's the wild card, which was Ross Perot. And the wild card in this tier is the Colts. Joe Flacco, Anthony Richardson.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't
No.
know. But the
Come
Colts, the
on.
Colts at 4-5, they could make the playoffs. They are tied with these teams for the playoffs.
The Colts are not better than the Rams. Give me a break.
I think they are.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
The Rams
Really?
don't have Jonathan Taylor.
We're judging running backs
I don't
now?
know.
Like the running back's the most least important position in the NFL. Who's got the better quarterback?
The
Who has the
Rams. Sure, the Rams.
who has the better weapons? Don't.
The
Don't.
Rams. The Rams.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Who is the better coach?
Rams.
Okay. So if you have the better quarterback weapon, I mean, defense is probably pretty close. I think the Rams have a good defense too.
Sure.
The Colts, I think you're on the Joe Flacco hype train. I was gonna say it.
Maybe I am too much on the Joe Flacco hype train. I don't
They
know.
have a good defense, but you lose to the Vikings, who are on a little bit of a slide. I don't think the Vikings are as good as people think. Anthony Richardson sucks. I mean, yeah. So that's my piece about the Colts. I think the Broncos, they've looked really good. I will give them that. I do think maybe a little high. Maybe a little high. That's just what I'm trying to say right now. I mean, you saw the Seahawks dismantle the Broncos week 1, which obviously that seems like ancient history at this point.
Well, was it a dismantling? They lost by 6.
It was not close, in my opinion.
Okay.
I understand Bo Nix had a chance to drive down, but I will say, Levi, Bo Nix has looked really good the
He
last couple
has.
weeks.
He has. I
Is
think he's
he? Do you
better
think
than
he's the
Caleb.
second best rookie
Yeah.
quarterback this year?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right now he is. And I mean Drake
So
May
you'd
has
have
also
him over Caleb.
to be honest, I think all four of them has looked good, but right now I have Bo Nix over Caleb.
You want to just quickly? What's your four?
I would say Jaden, Nix, Caleb, and then Drake May. But I don't think Drake May at four, that's like a good four. Like he's looked good
Yeah, this
too.
is not a Zach Wilson four. This
I
is
mean, did
a
you see that throw that Drake May made to tie
at
the
the end of the
game?
game. Yeah,
That was like a
that was
Russell
crazy.
Wilson throw.
That
That was
was
like a
vintage
Russell.
Russ.
Yeah, that was.
Cue
All
the
right.
cue the circus music. Yeah.
All right. Next tier, tier six. Also rans. Look, every year you go to the Wikipedia page of the presidential election, and there's a whole list of the also rans, the candidates that, they ran and it was cool. They got to be in the debate, but they didn't really get that much traction. That's how these teams feel to me as far as Super Bowl contenders. These teams are going to make the playoffs, right? They're good. They're going to make the playoffs, but I don't think any of them have a real chance at the Super Bowl. We got the Cardinals. You know what? 5-4. Like I said, they beat the Rams. Okay, they beat the or they haven't beat the Seahawks yet. They beat the Niners. They just beat the Bears. They're on a bit of a roll. They've won three in a row. By the way, first time they've won three in a row since 2019. How about that?
That was
The,
back when they were good.
back when they were good. The Chargers, okay, the Chargers, they're gonna make the playoffs, but let's be honest. I mean, I haven't. Have you seen anything that makes you think they can win the Super Bowl? I don't.
If their defense is the one thing.
Yeah, they
If
have a good
their defense
defense.
is
That's true.
really good. But
I just
yes,
don't
I
think they have
agree.
the playmakers.
They're not winning the Super Bowl.
Herbert needs maybe a couple more weapons. The Eagles, you know what? 6-2. I respect it. Definitely better than I thought they were gonna be a couple weeks ago when they almost lost to the Browns. Nice win over the Giants. Nice win over the Jags. But again, I don't really feel like they have that it factor that gets them over the top. And then
Yeah.
lastly, the Falcons. Again, they're going to win that division. They just beat the Cowboys, but I just don't feel like the Falcons have that juice to really make a deep playoff run.
Yeah, no, probably not. Cardinals at 13. You're really buying into the hype. I don't hate it. I don't hate it,
Well,
but
I had them at 19 last week, so I moved them up by 6. I felt like that was fair. I don't
yeah,
know.
it's fair. I've seen a lot of bad Kyler Murray in the
Yeah.
later parts of the year consistently
Well, okay,
where
let me say this though. Their schedule gets super easy. They got like the Patriots, the Panthers, they got a bunch of easy teams coming up. So that's why I feel like even if Murray doesn't play perfect, I think they can win that division.
yeah, I mean they got the Jets, which I wouldn't say is easy, but we'll see. And then I think they have a bye week, but yeah. Either way, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. The Chargers, I love the Chargers in certain scenarios. I love the Chargers when they're ahead and you get the Harbaugh style football and J.K.
Yeah.
Dobbins is doing his thing and Justin Herbert is a game manager, which I think, hand up, Justin Herbert's not an elite quarterback. He's an elite game manager, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the Chargers are a team where when push comes to shove, you don't got Patrick Mahomes. You don't got like a Derrick Henry, someone that can really truly take over a game. So I agree. I think that's the one I agree with you the most. If I could just randomly assign a number to the Chargers, it'd be 12. Like that's just what I'm feeling. So I would agree with you. And then the Eagles, it's hard. Like Sirianni, will he get fired? He was like this close, and then they start to kind of win some football games, and that's kind of died a little bit, I would say. And then you got the Falcons, who they lose to the Seahawks, they beat the Cowboys. I don't know. I would probably put the Falcons where the Chargers are, put the Chargers maybe where the Eagles are, Eagles where Falcons are. But either way, you can kind of potato, tomato, tomato. It's all the same thing.
Yeah, my reasoning there was just I had there's 11 teams that have won 6 games and I had to put only 10 of them can be in the top 10. And so I was between the Eagles and the Falcons and I said, well, the Falcons beat the Eagles, so I'll put the Falcons at 10, the Eagles at 11.
Miraculous win,
It
to be
was.
fair.
It
But
was a miraculous win. That's true.
yes,
All
about
right,
as
tier
close as you can
5.
get.
Bernie Sanders. Similar to Bernie Sanders, these teams just won't go away, but they also, I don't think, are ever going to actually win. They're really good at being like the runner up. The Bills, the Steelers, the Vikings. I feel like every year they're a contender. Every year they're in the playoff hunt. Every year they're in the playoffs. And every year they lose in the playoffs. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Levi's waiting for me to jump in because pretty good. That sums it up for me too. I like it. The Bills, I would have. swapped with the Vikings, I think the Bills are better. I think the Vikings you're going to see them slowly start to fall off, but you got to respect the win total they have right now. So I agree in the top 10. Steelers are interesting because Russell Wilson's looking like the right move, Levi. He is.
He is.
And if Russell Wilson can play 80% of what he was 3 or 4 years back, this is a team that could make a serious run. And if the Steelers play the Chiefs, that's a game where I'm fascinated by it. I
Yeah.
really am because the Steelers defense, in my eyes, is the best in the league. So if the Steelers offense can be
Yeah.
even capable, even kind of competent, they have a chance to beat
They could have a
anyone.
chance. Yeah, well, and to that point, they play Washington next week, and that's a tough game for them. But I'll tell you what, Mike Tomlin is excellent against rookie quarterbacks. So I might pick the Steelers to upset the Commanders and be 7-2.
Uh,
And if they're
I think it
and
might be
that puts
time,
them in a
Levi, to
great
put Mike
situation.
Tomlin as the best quarterback in the NFL.
The best coach, you mean?
Yes, coach in the
Well,
NFL.
I'm not going to go there. Andy Reid is the best coach in the NFL.
Yes, right after, okay, obviously Andy Reid, but right after Reid, I don't know. I don't see anyone that's doing what Tomlin done at this point,
Yeah, I could say right after Reid. Sure.
Yeah.
All right, tier 4 AOC. If you know AOC, a couple years ago, she was the most popular member of the Democratic Party. Everyone loves her. Everyone thinks she'd be a great president. The problem is she's not old enough yet. She's only like 32. And this is the Commanders. Because as good as Jaden Daniels is, as good as the Commanders are, no rookie quarterback has ever made it to the Super Bowl. And I don't think it's going to be Jaden Daniels the first time. I'm not saying he's bad. He is going to be the future, maybe, of the NFC. Him and Jordan Love, Caleb, they're going to be the future of this league. But it's not their time yet, just like it's not AOC's time yet. Someday she's going to be the president, but not
You
yet because
think?
she's not old enough yet. And Jaden Daniels, someday he's going to climb that mountain, win a Super Bowl, but it's not his time yet. He's too young.
Levi, best analogy of the day. I'll hand it to you. I'll hand it to you. Good job. I like this one. Commanders at 6, though. I don't know if I like that. A little bold for me, especially
Really?
after
Too high, you think?
maybe just a little bit. I mean, if you want to say squeaked by the
Sure,
Bears, I mean, they squeaked by the
they
Bears a
did,
couple
but
weeks
you
ago.
have to admit that was a pretty dang good throw.
Yeah, I mean, as good as a Hail Mary throw can be. I mean, you throw it up and you hope stuff happens, and it did for them. I don't know. I like them. I would have the Bills ahead of them. I would have the Steelers ahead of them. I'd have the Commanders slotted in right ahead of the Vikings before the Steelers and the Bills. Don't hate it. Love Jaden Daniels. I just don't think there's enough talent right now.
Okay. But see, so you think in the playoffs, if the Vikings played the Commanders, would the Commanders win?
Yeah, I would give the edge to the Command. I don't think the Vikings are as good as people think.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, but like if the 49ers play the Commanders, which you have 10 spots lower,
Yeah, the Commanders are winning that football game.
I mean, I don't know if they are.
I think they are.
Okay. I
Commanders are
mean, I
the
would
way the
probably agree
Niners are
with you,
playing.
but
Well,
what?
we'll see. Well, we have to wait and see. CMC is going to be back eventually, so we'll have to wait and see. Tier 3, one too many gaffes. We always hear about this. Politicians are on the trail. They're giving a good speech, and all of a sudden they make a little slip up. It's a little gaff, and all of a sudden you're like, do I really want to vote for that person? The Ravens, the Texans, the Packers, all three of these teams have played really great football. And then you look and you're like, well, wait a second. The Ravens lost to the Browns and the Raiders. You look at the Texans, you're like, wait a second. They lost to the Jets. And you look at Green Bay and you're like, they're winning, but they're winning ugly. And
Yeah.
Jordan Love is not playing well. And
And
Malik
they can't
Willis
beat the
has to save his
Lions.
skin.
And
And they can't be.
yeah.
So I don't know. It just feels like there's a lot to like about all three of these teams, but it just feels like there's one too many mistakes.
Yeah, the biggest mistake that jumps out to me is that Texans lost to the Jets. I know it was aided by a few miraculous plays. By the way, that was maybe the most impressive catch I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, that was ridiculous. MJ pose in the back of the end zone. But the Texans, I expected them to put the season out of reach for the Jets, and they didn't do that. And the other two teams, the Ravens and the Packers, look, you can't say too many bad things about them. These are both really good football teams with great quarterbacks. But you're right. It's like how good can you really be if you lose to the Browns? How good can you really be, if you can never get over the hump and beat the Lions? I mean, that game wasn't super competitive. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I will say this though about Green Bay. Last year, we thought, oh, that they're not even going to come close to the Lions because they got killed the first time they played. Remember what happened on Thanksgiving? They blew them
180.
out.
Yeah, 180.
So could happen again. Tier two, settle for VP. It worked for Kamala. This is the Lions. I hate to keep doing this, putting the Lions in their own separate tier, but I can't put another team in there at the top. The Lions might just have to settle for second place this year. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that. And I do think they are the clear favorites to be second place.
Do you think VP as it worked for Kamala, so we should expect the Lions to at some point potentially win the
Right.
presidency
Right.
based
Yeah,
off of what
exactly.
happens tonight?
At some point in the future, they could perhaps win the Super Bowl, but this year they might just have to settle for VP.
Okay. I like it. I really like the Lions. Nothing to say here. I think
Yeah,
Jared Goff is a top five quarterback in the NFL, which if you asked me that a couple years ago, I would say you're
you're
crazy. But
crazy. Yeah.
now you're not crazy. I mean, that's kind of the going rate. Jared Goff is one of, if not the best in the pocket passers we've seen since Tom Brady. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Obviously Aaron Rodgers and all that, but since Tom Brady's retired, I think he's one of the best. Yeah, but obviously we all know where this is going, Levi. Let's see tier one.
Headed back to the White House. We all know what happens when you win the Super Bowl. Where do you go? You go to the White House, and then you go to Disneyland. And the Chiefs are going to be going to both of those places for the third straight year.
And there's the picture with
I
Patrick
hate
Mahomes in the background.
I hate that I keep doing this because I really didn't want to be the guy who's going to pick the Chiefs every single week, but they keep winning and they keep doing what they do, which is they'll stink for the first three quarters. And then here they come, fourth quarter, comeback win, overtime win. And as soon as they scored that touchdown to tie it against Tampa, you knew they were going to win. And Tampa knew they were going to win. You could tell the looks on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers faces.
Did you see his face? Did you see Baker Mayfield's face?
Yeah,
He
absolutely
lost the
disappointed.
coin toss and Buddy went like this.
He knew. He knew.
Yeah. I
There's no stopping this team. And
no, I mean,
maybe Baker needs to show some more faith in his defense, but
well,
let's be
as
honest,
bad
it's
as
Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes has been, Levi, as bad as he's been, he's still, it feels like when he needs to get a touchdown, he can do it at will. It
And
feels like that.
and there ain't no and like you say, as bad as he's been, he's probably the number 3 MVP candidate right now behind Lamar and Josh Allen.
And how can you argue with that? Because in my eyes, wins is a quarterback
Yeah,
stat, and the Chiefs are
tell you.
undefeated.
They're
I will say,
undefeated.
Levi, I don't have any, gripes with your, obviously, Chiefs are number one. I was hoping for like a steal the vote, like fake votes pun because like they have the refs on their side and like a little
Ah,
Donald. But I guess, we don't get it there.
I
Headed
don't
back to
I
the
don't
White
want
House,
to I don't
nice
want
and
to stir the
classy.
pot too much.
Yeah, okay, okay. Well, no, that's just what Donald Trump said. I was
Right.
just
Exactly.
that's like what Trump would say if he saw the Chiefs. He'd be like, those are fake votes.
Which is what I also say when I watch the Chiefs, and I say, man, the
Okay.
refs are always on their side.
All
But no, I
right.
mean
Well, we know who Levi's voting for tonight. We know who Levi's voting for.
but no, the Chiefs they win no matter what. They win with the refs. They win without the refs. I mean, the Bengals game, the refs were not on their side, and they still
Yeah,
won.
Levi, at what point do we start talking about potential undefeated season? I mean, and they got the Broncos, that should be a win. Then it looks like they're on a bye. No, then they play the
I
Bills.
think
Okay,
when
couple
they
of
beat
weeks
the
against the
Bills,
Bills.
I think if they beat the Bills,
Okay.
then you start talking about undefeated. The Bills have beat them 3 straight times in the regular season.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, look, after the Bills, they got Panthers, Raiders, Chargers. So
Yeah,
then you're
that's
like,
once you
then
beat the
we're
Bills, you're
really
in the clear.
danger mode as far as the Chiefs could go undefeated. So we'll see.
And if they do, they have to be the Super Bowl favorites. They have to be.
Yeah, I mean, they're the Super Bowl favorites right now. I mean, if they're the Super Bowl favorites if they lose the next 2 weeks, in my eyes.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. If they lose, who do they play the next 2 weeks?
Well, they play the Bills in a couple weeks, which wouldn't be that bad of a loss. And then they play the Broncos next week. So, like, let's say for some reason Bo Nix gets the better of them, and then they lose a close one to Josh Allen. I still think the Chiefs are
Yeah,
the favorites.
probably. They probably are because then you're thinking, well, it's between the Bills and the Chiefs, and who do you trust in the playoffs? The
Yeah.
Chiefs.
It's the one time where it's like, who cares about if the Bills just beat the Chiefs? I'm still taking the Chiefs. So
Exactly. Well, thank you guys for watching. This is Coast to Coast Sports. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys in next week. We'll see you guys next week. Yeah.
see you guys.